Aloha, this is Santa Surfing. Welcome to Beach Broadcast. Today is Friday, July 25th, 2025. I did not have a podcast on July 24th, 2025. There was just so much going on and I just didn't know where to begin. So I just kind of literally just did other things, catching up on behind the scenes. Okay, so if you ever want to know how to find me, all my links are always here. Daily shows are always on YouTube, and then my backup is on Rumble. Those are posted a day later, and then I have my radio stations only posting once a week, and then there's all my social. There's so many things to cover, so this one is going to be on the Federal Reserve, and then my next podcast will be on the President Trump presser at the White House just before he left to go to Scotland. But this is on the Federal Reserve, and then Trump hints rebates for certain people, and it kind of sounds like NESARA. Is it NESARA? So you can always look at my playlists on YouTube. The playlist will have a NESARA JASARA, and this podcast will be a part of that as well. Okay, so I'm just going to dive in, guys, because I have a lot to cover. President Trump is only one of 4 presidents to visit the Federal Reserve. Think about that, right? What happened to the other 40 presidents? They didn't get a chance to go visit the Federal Reserve. No, because, well, Federal Reserve only had 4 presidents visit, and these are the presidents that did visit. Franklin D. Roosevelt, he was the one that served 4 terms as president. He's the one that took away, back in 1933, he took away, he wrote an EO 6110 to take away your gold. If you didn't turn in your gold, you would not only get thrown in jail, you would get fined. Back in 1933, you would get fined $10,000, right? Gerald Ford, his VP was Nelson, also known as Rocky Rockefeller, okay? George W. Bush, 9/11 crimes with his papa, and then they were, again, Building 7 was to take away our gold. And then we have the white hat president, President Trump. He is giving back our gold. Now, do you see the pattern here? You've got crook, and then you've got a white hat, and giving back our gold, going and visiting the Federal Reserve. Again, it's off limits. I've shared this years ago. I've shared it a few other times, little snippets of it. If you just want to get a better understanding and keep yourself entertained, and maybe you want to have your children understand this too, about the inner workings of the Federal Reserve, this is a simple explanation. It's less than 30 minutes on how the Federal Reserve was formed and why it is so protected. It is protected more than Fort Knox. Nobody is allowed to go in. But I'm going to cover some things. So President Trump, let me just scroll down here. He's walking down the scaffolding. He's at the construction site all by himself. All right, he's wearing a white hard hat. And Rapid Response posted this, and President Trump says it feels very good actually to be back on a construction site. Okay, so let me just kind of go through some. You can listen to this. It's a 13-minute clip, but this is kind of interesting because it has some of the highlights that he talked about. Trump renovated the post office. But so I'm not going to play the full clip, but some of the highlights of his speech was he did mention 26. I'm going to show that to you again, Q26. We probably have it memorized, but I want to, again, emphasize it. If some of you may not watch my videos all the time, but just kind of catch it from time to time. Again, Q26. Think about it logically. The only way is the military fully controlled, save and spread once 11.3 verifies as first marker, biggest advanced drop on the board. 11.3 could be the Law of War, Department of Defense Manual, Chapter 11, Section 3, about a belligerent occupation, or it could also refer to 11.3, November 3rd, 2020, that election. Yeah? Okay, so he also talked about President Trump talked about how he renovated the post office, turned it into a Trump Tower that eventually got sold off to Waldorf. Okay, then he talks about the Federal Reserve building is very luxurious. It's like, why would it be luxurious, right? And then you even had Jerome Powell saying, well, we have extra money. I'll play that clip in a minute. And then he said the basement, he was talking about a basement, and it's expensive to build a basement. Was President Trump implying they were building the basement to hide something, that the Federal Reserve? Trump even talked about restrooms in the basement. meaning were they preparing to build as an elite shelter, or is it a holding tank now? So remember, Kash Patel, before he became the FBI director, he was out doing his podcast media circuit, and he talked about what is underneath DC and that they were jail cells, right? Prison cells, not prison, but jail cells, holding tanks. President Trump talked about he doesn't want to be a Monday morning quarterback. So me thinking, again, you decide. But is there something big that's going to be announced on Monday morning, right? Then he talked about Europe. He talked about the EU lowered their rates 11 times. Now, in the past, President Trump has said 10 times. So if you go here, you go to Q11, and it says military intelligence versus FBI, CIA, and SA. This is key, okay? No approval or congressional oversight. Get that? All right. State secrets upheld under SC Supreme Court. Who is the commander of chief of the military, which would be Trump? Under the article, can the president impose military intelligence take over? Can the president impose military intelligence take over investigations for the three-letter agencies? What conditions must present itself? Why is this so important? Who surrounds POTUS? They lost this very important power, the one area the government not corrupt and directly serves POTUS. Again, military is the only way. We are under a military operation, so it's handled a lot differently than how it would be done in Congress. So we always have to remember that whenever there's some strange Congress things that happen. And then he says interest rates should drop by 3 points. Well, he had mentioned this before. I mentioned it in my last podcast, and it was Q3. Again, I'm just going to read the first and the last half. Open your eyes. It finally came out that Rod Bob were key players in the uranium scandal. Again, that hasn't been released, but I'm sure it will be over time. Don't you think POTUS will be tweeting about removal given clear conflict? Why did POTUS meet Bob under the cover of FBI director interview? So he was actually talking to Bob Mueller because he was the FBI director, but he couldn't serve that again, so he became the special prosecutor. And after his report came out, he got nothing on Trump, but everything on everybody else. Then I'm dropping down here. It says, follow Huma, Operation Mockingbird, priority to clean up bad actors to unite people behind the America First agenda. Many in our government worship Satan, not about Republicans versus Democrats at this stage. Where is HRC? Again, just stopping there. She is making headlines now. Why is the NG called up across 12 cities? Trust you in your president. God bless patriots. We may not be getting cute posts anymore, but we're getting a lot of President Trump, Happy Trumpo, Dan Scavino, Trump team hints and comms, White House comms, right? Those accounts are dropping a lot of bombs. Okay, then he continues on and says, without us, which is America, the world would collapse. So he's making it very clear that America needs to be saved first before we can do anything with the world. Then he talked about underground parking lots. That's very expensive to build and deep underground. Again, he's talking about underground. Then he talked about Japan, how they paid $550 billion, and as with the conversation he had with one of the reporters, the bottom line is Japan paid $550 billion as a sign. He says, I call it a signing bonus, and it was to keep their tariff rates down. And he said, Japan is opening up their economy to us, and that is not an easy thing to do. Essentially, what President Trump did is he has ended Japan's isolation policies to engage in trade. So they paid $550 billion to get their tariff rate low at 15%. And what President Trump is doing with many of these nations is that he's charging them for tariffs coming in, but there's a lot of deals where the tariffs are very low or next to nothing with our imports or exports going out, which is, oh my gosh, who in the world can ever do something like that, right? Then he talked about lowering interest rate then leads to housing, but he didn't finish that. He was talking about how there's a lot of young people that would love to buy a home, but the interest rates need to go down. So he was just really emphasizing that once that happens, he's talking about the housing market, but the timing is everything, guys. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Then President Trump, he says he believes the chairman will do the right thing. He didn't say Jerome Powell. He said, the chairman. And then he said, the king of Saudi Arabia says, we are the hottest country. Last year, we were dead. Is President Trump referring to the death of the USA Incorporated? Again, then if you take it back to 1 year, that's when the bumblehead Biden was in office. So was he running a defunct, bankrupt corporation during that time while President Trump was doing the commander-in-chief stuff behind the scenes to get a lot of these things done? And then a reporter says, well, do you have any names in mind that will replace Jerome Powell? And he goes, yeah, I have 1, 2, possibly 3 names in mind to replace Jerome Powell. And then President Trump says, President Trump walks down the scaffold on his own wearing a white hat. Does that mean that it's signifying there's a restructuring going on, rebuilding the Federal Reserve from within? We already know with Q3904, remember, we already know that the Federal Reserve and the Treasury, and it was a liberal article. Okay, and the liberal was kind of going crazy, but Q3904, they already merged. But again, then you might ask, and you might be new to all of this. You might be new to MAGA. It's like, why would they be doing that? Because if President Trump had to boldly and bluntly expel things out, it would cause a civil unrest. Right now, what we are fighting are the central banksters that want to keep us under the Federal Reserve regime and their control with their interest rates, and then they want to keep us under the IRS by charging income taxes, et cetera, et cetera. President Trump's trying his darnest step by step, little steps, baby steps, to get rid of those things, yeah? President Trump, he then presents receipts to Jerome Powell. Watch this clip. This is kind of interesting because Jerome Powell's like, oh, President Trump just had his receipts right in his pocket. And I'll tell you this, the liberals are losing their minds. They're going in there saying, did you see how shocked Trump looked? He didn't even read the receipt. And I'm thinking, man, I'll tell you, you guys are so gaslit, brainwashed, watching that freaking MSNBC, MSDNC, or CNN, or whatever you're watching. Man, just don't watch that and just start thinking for yourself. Check this out.
We hear the president. Let's tune in.
With the chairman, as you know. Chairman, come on over. And we're just taking a look at what's happening. And it's a tough construction job. They're building basements where they didn't exist or expanding them, and a lot of very expensive work. There's no question about it. And Tim has been with me for a long time, and you're in charge of the committee.
Indeed. One of the reasons why I wanted to see it was the overruns of the expenses, wanted to figure out why.
Yeah. So we're taking a look, and it looks like it's about $3.1 billion. It went up a little bit, or a lot. So the 2.7 is now 3.1.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, it just came out.
Yeah, I haven't heard that from anybody at the Fed.
Yeah, it just came out.
Our notes had it about 3.1 as well.
3.1,
3.2.
This came from us?
Yes. I don't know who does that.
You're including the Martin renovation. You just added
entire capital.
Yeah, you just added in a third building. Is what that is. That's a third building.
Well, no, but it's a building that's being built.
No, it was built 5 years ago. We finished Martin 5 years ago.
It's part of the overall work.
But it's not new.
So we're going to take a look. We're going to see what's happening, and it's got a long way. Do you expect any more additional cost overruns?
Don't expect them. We're ready for them, but we have a little bit of a reserve that we may use. But no, we don't expect to be finished in 2027. We're well along, as you can see.
Nice to take these off every once in a while when we're not under too much danger. So, any questions?
Mr. President, does the issue give you any?
As a real estate developer, what would you do with a project manager who? As a real estate developer, what would you do with a project manager who would be over budget?
Generally speaking, what would I do? I'd fire him.
I'm telling you, this is their walk of shame. You have Jerome Powell 2.0 sitting there, and he's all pompous and everything. And that you're adding a third building. Well, 5 years ago, Jerome Powell, you were the Fed chairman, and you apparently authorized that third building that was built 5 years ago. So these people, they're doing their walk of shame. Jerome Powell is doing his walk of shame, actually bringing President Trump into the building. President Trump, he's probably saying, "Oh, dang it, we can't hide all of our little hidden secrets and cubby holes. And President Trump's looking around. He's like, man, you got basements, you got all kinds of stuff. Okay, so he's got a chance. President Trump, again, he is showing the world that he has had a chance to access the Federal Reserve build out. And President Trump even made a comment about how much he would have spent for the same amount of work. He said he would have spent about $200 million, not $2.7 billion, or what it's now, $3.1 billion. So Tim Burchett, he's like, well, if the Federal Reserve is a private organization, why are the taxpayers on the hook for a $3 billion renovation firepower? I'm sitting here going, what the freak is wrong with these people, right? Congress, they're now fessing up and recognizing that Federal Reserve is a private organization. First of all, did President Trump say that? No, he did not say that. So why is it Tim Burchett is now bringing it up? Apparently, again, you've known, I've known, the Anon surfers, Real MAGA has known about that. They didn't, but you didn't get the media and you didn't get these people right here saying anything about these Congress people. So my question is, why haven't the people in Congress done anything about it to shut them down if you have just now recognized them as a private organization, right? So I was all fired up here, and then I looked at Q proofs and Q drops for today, the deltas, and boy, does it tie in very, very, they're actual proofs. It ties in with what just happened. Oops. The delta of 16, there's quite a few July 25th deltas, but Q1695 is an actual Q proof of the Federal Reserve. Number one, Trump visits the Federal Reserve under construction. And this Q post right here, it says structure right there, yeah? And then it has a couple of articles in here. Trump poised to take control of the Federal Reserve, but the Q message was 2+2 confirmation, fast. We will never again be under their control. Q. Okay, so they're just making it very clear for us Anons, we're never going to be under their control. Now, in this article, this one article, it ends with the president can and will take control of the Fed. It may be recalled. When the law was written creating the Federal Reserve, the Secretary of the Treasury was designated as the head of Federal Reserve. We are going to return to that era. Like it or not, the Fed is not about to be politicized. Oh my gosh. And that article was written back in 2018. Now, don't get upset. Again, you decide, but we need confirmations. We need a lot of confirmations. We need judges to be confirmed as well. But we need confirmations, and Thune and Johnson are going against their own party president to stay in session so Trump can't make recess appointments. Their plan. Okay, the plan that Thune and Johnson have is that they come back to Congress every 5 days to be in session. The Constitution defines recess in Congress. They have to be out for 10 days or more. So what are these two doing? They're coming back every 5 days, 4 or 5 days, and they're going to be in session. And it just has to be them, 1-2 people in a Zoom call or whatever kind of call they have. Senate couldn't, and it doesn't have to be with the entire Congress. It has to just be with 1 or 2 members. That's it. Senate couldn't confirm Trump's nominations. That includes 50 judges. Now it's leading into, I can't say recess, I'm saying summertime. So I really don't understand this part of the plan yet. President Trump, he posted a very strong message late last night on his Il Donato account, his Pappy Trumpo account. It was a subscription post, and it says, stay ready for hard times. Expect them. Don't wish them upon you. Just know that they may come, and if and when they come, you will be waiting for them, ready to kick their freaking butts. Let's freaking go. Ready to kick their freaking butts. Let's freaking go. Bring it on. Bleep. Good night, familia. Okay, that's President Trump on his subscription post. So you can subscribe to Pappy Trumpo and get some of these bombs. Now, we know the Federal Reserve and the swamp people won't go down without a fight. We know that for a fact. But another delta for July 25th. Again, there it is, the month and the day. Not the year, but the month and the day. And it's a picture of Mark Zuckerberg. And oh my gosh, it says holy blank, or oh blank. Q is right. Now here comes the pain. Facebook death spiral. Stock plunges 24%. Okay, so this is really what we're looking for when we look at deltas. Something big is about to drop. Okay, so another Q delta for today, the 25th, is we the people have the right to alter or abolish the government. Now Q1700 starts that with that whatever form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and governing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. And then it talks about, as you get closer down here, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Is that what's going to happen, right? The revolution, the evolution of this new government, right? We're already seeing a lot of changes happening. So again, with that, comes resistance. Okay, number 5, we need constitutional judges to hear certain cases of the swamp. And then, of course, we know the military is going to hear the treasonous cases or the other cases. July 25, Delta, it reposted a 24th post, and it says, you are witnessing and watching the systematic destruction of the old guard. Power will return to the people. Okay, it's really great. 6 is President Trump tariff deals are effective on August 1st, which is next Friday, guys. Income taxes have funded the government since the dirty Federal Reserve was formed in 1913. Tariff revenues will now fund our government. Crypto laws are now in effect. More states are accepting gold and silver as payment. Gold destroys the Fed, but wouldn't tariffs and XRP and crypto destroy the Fed as well? Remember, the Feds are connected with not just with the interest on the central banks and working with the central banksters. The Federal Reserve created the IRS. You with me? Now, we know that there's got to be the external revenue service or some kind of revenue service that still needs to collect taxes. The official tariff deadline date hasn't hit yet, which is next Friday. And President Trump has made it very clear, we've got so much money. We got such a big surplus, but I'll get to that in just a second, guys. It's kind of interesting. Number 7, this is a Delta in 4 days from now. Praying for POTUS, Q team, and all patriots, God wins, and America is back. So what's going to happen in the next 4 days, yeah? Number 8, these constant battles to destroy decades of financial slavery. Think about that, since 1913, and even before that, and well over a century of human abuse crimes. Exposing the media of their collusion with their criminal thug buddies, right? It's a really, really tough and rough process, yet President Trump and the Q team, they are all taking it down in less than 9 years, right? An upcoming Delta, July 27th Delta that's coming up is President Trump. This is what Q had posted. The President of the United States retweeted this graphic. Pause, reread above, pause, reread above again. Nature is unpredictable, which tells me, are they going to be doing something with the weather again? Q. But it is, now that Russia collusion is proven lie, when do the trials for treason begin? That was what President Trump had retweeted. There was no truth at that time. Now there is a truth. Truth social. Remember, back in June 14th, the military parade. Remember, that was a celebration day, guys. President and Melania sent a very strong message. Checkmate. Remember their move, the 3 move, and then we had this gentleman here. He came up and we gave them the flag, and he said, this is the flag that was over DC in free fall. So think this, when the swamp, the dirty media keep losing their games of chess or checkers or whatever tiddlywinks that they bring to the to a chess game, they're bound to get really angry, really, really angry. And they're not going to go down without a fight. President Trump, he has been sending tons of justice cons, but here are just 3. Remember the FAFO one where he's wearing the fedora hat and he's like, looks like a gangsta, and it says FAFO, freak around and find out. And then we remember the TikTok video that President Trump put out there, and he said that there would be law and order, and he held up some handcuffs. All right, and then of course this one right here about the trials for treason. So for the Russia collusion, right? So to get us. But he's doing all of that so that he can get us back on the path to greatness, and it will be golden. And we're sitting nothing. When he met with the president of the Philippines, he had nothing but gold around him. He's had nothing but gold. He has gold hair and gold necktie, gold everything, right? It just will be golden. A very, very big July 25th Delta is John Quent had posted this. Happy days ahead, Patriot Q. So again, we're going to just have, maybe a day or two of just like a lot of fighting and whatever. But there are going to be beautiful, happy, glorious days ahead. We know the Federal Reserve has never had an official audit. Doge has been trying to get in there to do their audit, but because they're not an official government agency, so there's that catch-22. We've not heard anything about Doge. So what did Scott Bessent say 4 days ago? He was talking about what we need to do is examine the entire Federal Reserve institution and whether they have been successful. All of these PhDs over there, I don't know what they do. This is like universal basic income for academic economists. And then he's been asked, Scott Bessent's been asked, would you replace Jerome Powell as the Fed chairman? And he's like, he's been very evasive, but that question has been brought up, right? But remember, back last year, Jerome Powell, he agrees with all of us. He admits that eliminating the Federal Reserve is best for the economic stability. Check this out.
So eliminating the Federal Reserve is best for promoting economic stability.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yo, dude, why aren't you just going ahead and saying that? President Trump saw you yesterday at your Federal Reserve building that's under construction. Couldn't you have just said that? Hey, eliminating this would be best for economic stability. Why don't you go ahead and build your beautiful hotel here and have it accommodate all of your MAGA supporters that want to come here to D.C.? Or I don't know. Could have said something like that. No. I wonder what they're really building over there at the Federal Reserve. Okay, well, anyway, that's just like my little brain, my little squirrel brain going crazy right now. So we know President Trump's on a huge winning streak. He's winning. He's batting 1,000, right? DNC, they posted this horrible post about President Trump and their inflation. And it was like, what the freak is wrong with you people? But Rapid Response saved it. So if you go here, this is what they posted. U.S. grocery prices reached high records in 2025. They're higher than in 2024. Malarkey. But if you go here, check this out. Boom, it's gone. They took it down. So that's how they play. They play dirty. They cheat. They lie. They do whatever. They get illegals to vote, right? You know how they work. So they'll do the same with XRP or anything President Trump promotes. Crypto, AI. Oh, and it's more based AI, not woke AI. Soon energy independence, ETFs that are getting approved that have XRP. They're XRP ETFs, which is really great. They are so desperate to just discredit the only president that worked his tail off to get our economy back on track. Now it's on the right track. It's still getting on the right track. But so what happened to XRP since I last reported on that, right? We knew this was going to happen. We knew that the naysayers, the TDSers, they're going to go ahead and dump the XRP just so that they can go ahead and to spite President Trump and all his great accomplishments. And is this even going to go down more? Right now it's at 307. A lot of people are saying, no, it happens because they do that all the time. They dropped Bitcoin from in the 90s to the 80s in 1 hour when President Trump says, don't sell your Bitcoin, as President Trump is signing the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve back in March, right? Remember that? Don't sell your Bitcoin. And then here it is, March, April, May, June, July. 4 months later, it went over 120,000. And again, we know how they play. We know their playbook. It always works like that. So if you are in it, you're saying, oh man, Santa, I can't believe it. Hey, didn't that happen with silver? Didn't it happen with gold? Didn't it happen with everything that President Trump really does try to promote? Yeah. Vincent Kennedy put out a really, really great post on the 19th of July. Now, for those of you that don't know Vincent Kennedy, he's just he knows a lot of stuff, lots and lots of stuff. Okay, so he had written it and he's always got a cryptic message. Okay, but sometimes he spells things out. If a default is in plan, then the Corporation of America is about to bang out all its credit cards. You can open up his post and read the comments and see how he replies to it, okay? I am not going to go there on this podcast, but I did want to read one of the replies posted by the House of Muse. It is this. This is a post from Vincent Kennedy, and a lot of people save his posts. Right? They archive it, they save it, they screenshot it. It was back in February 9th of 2019. Are you free if a corporation can shut off your electricity? And then it says, yeah, I guess we can build some log cabins with hand saws. But what he's trying to say is he's hinting on the energy independence. Then he's talking about go hunting for food, and technically we are free from it all. Some may prefer that life. Most will want to keep moving forward. Okay, then he said the plan is larger than most are thinking. People will realize to be truly free requires free energy to start. This is where, if you want to go ahead and take a look at my playlist on YouTube, and there's 2 or 3 of them on the Tesla technology and about the energy, the power walls, the different types of things that they have. Okay, granted, the power wall still costs money on a monthly basis, but it's significantly lower. Okay, so and President Trump is very proud of the energy independence. Again, that's what Vincent Kennedy is talking about. Again, he knew. Now comes what's next, NESARA or something of the likes. We become sovereign citizens and not just property of the United States Corporation of America. We are really starting to understand freedom by this time. Now, bear in mind when Vincent Kennedy wrote this, it was just a year and a month, or a year and 3 months before the USA Incorporated was officially bankrupt. Are you with me? So USA Incorporated officially was bankrupt in May of 2020, but he already knew. So just throwing that out there. But if you wanted to go ahead and read this right here and read out some of the different responses in there, it's very entertaining for your weekend. And you can kind of get an idea of what he's talking about. But remember, President Trump and his team and his sons have been always trying to kind of let you know to buy the dips. Eric Trump posted this, buy the dips, back in February. And then he just posted it again about a week ago, buy the dips. All right. So, and then here's Hold Boss X. When Eric Trump says buy the dips, you obey, hold, and profit, okay? Or hold to dear life. And then Mr. Crypto, again, President Trump said this is a great time to buy the dip. And that was on April 9th. This is a great time to buy. Again, we have seen what happened in April is that when he said that, then the market took we survived the Trump crash of less than 24 hours because, the naysayers and TDSers and all of them, they were manipulating the market and they got it to crash just for one day and then it bounced right back up. But again, is President Trump allowing, I'm toggling up, excuse me, is he allowing things like this to happen so that you can get in on the action, right? So just letting you know, that's how I see it. You decide, not financial advice, not any advice at all. Then President Trump, oh boy, at the White House today, as he's ready to leave for Scotland. This is the one thing I am going to post about the Scotland presser. He just says this, and I just was like, oh man, this is so wonderful. Check this out. And I listened carefully. He says, yeah, we're thinking about rebates. And then later on, he says a little rebate for people of a certain income level might be nice. Check this out.
Thinking about that, actually. We have so much money coming in. We're thinking about a little rebate, but the big thing we want to do is pay down debt. But we're thinking about a rebate. That's a very good question. You just made a lot of news. We're thinking about a rebate because we have so much money coming in from tariffs that a little rebate for people of a certain income level might be very nice.
Hello. There's no decoding with that. None. I know, you guys, we've been hearing lots of stuff, but we're now hearing it again direct, not coming from Anons, not coming from surfers, coming directly from President Trump and his team. I wanted Elon, please unthrottle my account just for one day to get that message, that video clip out there so everyone can know what's going on, what President Trump already has, talking about. And apparently yesterday I was asking Grok some questions. He got mad at me and he disconnected me. Okay, so, and then somebody, remember the 5th, and asked Grok about it. And then Grok was just giving a very safe answer about me getting throttled. I'm like, please unthrottle this account. And they're throttling, they're just shadow banning so many accounts today. It's unfortunate because a lot of really big stuff is coming out. Anyway, back to this. I mean, come on, I got disconnected from Grok. They didn't like me. Like I told you, remember, they were real angry with me. And so I just responded to this. Well, that's about as Humpty and Dumpty, meaning it's like a very safe answer. And then she was giggling. And then I said, well, we still love you, Grok. And Grok came back and apologized. Okay, Grok says, we love you. Apologies for the disconnection glitches happen if you're referring to Trump's executive order on homelessness, which I'm going to get to in my next podcast, to clear the streets for Main Street. I've been like, no. I'm referring to Trump talking about giving a little rebate to people of certain income levels. It would sure give them something to look forward to. And then he's like, oh, got it. Okay, now I understand what you're talking about. So what Grok was saying in here is he was saying, what do you think it should be? And I said, those earning less than 100,000. And Grok was saying, that could work. 100,000 aligns with middle income brackets. Isn't that crazy? $100,000. All right. And in Hawaii, $100,000 is like below minimum wage. You can barely survive with that. Anyway, back to this. But the U.S. median is $75,000. It'll cover 60% of household, focusing relief on those hit hardest by inflation. Trump mentioned certain income levels without specifics, phasing out above 75,000 might be optimistic appetite. Impact. Okay, so then I added, okay, that would work too. And then I posted this video and he never responded. Okay, so again, you could do your own digging. I'm not going to play that video on this podcast. Just get ready for whatever President Trump has got up his sleeve. For those that are involved in alternative assets, President Trump is leaving the country. Just kind of throwing that out there, okay? But this is what the White House posted on July 22nd, just 3 days ago. And it's kind of interesting. It is the White House with gold coins all falling all around it. And it's like, what in the world? That's amazing, right? It's just amazing. So White House, whoever's operating in the White House account, I really like them. Thank you, White House people. But they're just trying to give you a little bit of confirmation of some really golden era things on its way. That's why I believe that this was very much NESARA related, the Federal Reserve, taking it down, making sure we get back on track, because that's all NESARA stuff. But as our world continues to turn for the better, and through that process, we may have a battle or two or three or four to go. But as it continues to turn for the better, just keep spending a lot of time with God. If you have the time, just a suggestion or recommendation, you decide. But it just really fills your soul, and it will heal your heart if you have issues or things that may be like on your mind or in your heart, or you might just have certain requests, and let God just speak with you and through you. But just stay focused on Him and to trust really, truly only Him. And He is working with certain people like President Trump, like you, to help get us to this big, beautiful world. God bless you. Have a beautiful weekend. I'm going to work on my second podcast. Hopefully it'll be out by tomorrow morning. And that way you'll have something to listen to for this weekend. All right. Thanks so much for listening. Have a beautiful day. And I will have a show soon. Aloha.